The sterile scent of antiseptic hit me as soon as I pushed through the glass doors of the upscale Manhattan clinic. My mother had practically dragged me here, insisting that a consultation with the renowned Dr. Ethan Brooks was exactly what I needed to get my life on track and meet a suitable man. I never imagined that the doctor who would walk into the exam room and freeze in place upon seeing me would be Juliet, the woman who had once held my heart and shattered it 4 years ago. My heart slammed against my ribs like it wanted out. Mom beamed beside me, her small frame vibrating with that familiar mix of hope and control, her black hair pulled into a tight bun the same way she had worn it since I was a child in our cramped Queens apartment. "See, Adeline, this is why I push so hard. Dr. Brooks is from a good family, successful, stable, everything you need." She squeezed my arm harder, her nails digging in through my sweater, as if she could physically steer me toward the future she had scripted. I forced a nod, swallowing the bile rising in my throat. The receptionist had said Dr. Brooks was delayed in surgery, but his associate would handle the initial exam. I had pictured some middle-aged man in a white coat, not this. Not her. Juliet stood in the doorway, chart in hand, her dark hair shorter now, pulled back professionally, but those sharp brown eyes, the same ones that used to look at me like I was the only person in the room. She wore the white coat like armor, crisp and authoritative, a stethoscope draped around her neck. For a split second her professional mask cracked just enough for me to see the flash of recognition, pain, and something else, something dangerous. "Miss Thompson," she said, her voice steady but lower than I remembered. "Please have a seat. I'm Dr. Rivera. I'll be conducting your examination today." Mom didn't notice the shift in the air. She chattered on about how lucky we were to get in with such a prestigious practice, how Dr. Brooks had been recommended by her church group as the perfect match for a girl like me. I sat on the edge of the exam table, the paper crinkling under me, my hands clenched so tight my knuckles whitened. Juliet moved with efficient grace, closing the door behind her, the click echoing like a prison lock. She glanced at my chart, then at me, her gaze lingering a second too long on the way my shoulders tensed. "Your mother mentioned some fatigue, irregular cycles, stress-related issues. We'll start with basics, blood pressure, vitals, then discuss history." Every word was clinical, but beneath it I heard the question she wasn't asking. "Why are you here, Adeline? Why now? Why with your mother playing matchmaker for a man I know you never wanted?" The blood pressure cuff tightened around my arm and I focused on breathing, not on the way her fingers brushed my skin, sending memories crashing back. College at NYU, late nights in her dorm room, whispering secrets under thin blankets, the way she made me feel seen for the first time. Then the fight, the one where I told her I couldn't do it anymore, couldn't risk my family finding out, couldn't be the daughter who broke their hearts. I had walked away, leaving her with tears and accusations of cowardice. Now here she was, the one holding my future, or at least this forced chapter of it, in her hands. Mom hovered by the door, refusing to leave even when Juliet politely suggested privacy for the full history. "I'm her mother, I should know everything." Juliet nodded, but her eyes met mine with a silent understanding. We ran through the questions: heart rate, temperature, family history. Every answer I gave felt like a lie layered on top of the bigger one I had been living. When Juliet asked about relationships, I hesitated. "None serious," I mumbled. Mom jumped in. "That's why we're here, doctor. Adeline needs to think about settling down. A man like Dr. Brooks would be ideal." Juliet's pen paused on the chart. "I see. Well, for now let's focus on your health, Miss Thompson. Any history of anxiety, depression, anything emotional weighing on you?" The room felt smaller, the fluorescent lights harsher. I could see the question swirling behind Juliet's calm facade, the hurt I had caused, the years I had stolen from us both. She finished the note, set the chart aside, and turned to Mom. "Mrs. Thompson, if you could step out for a moment, I need to perform a quick physical assessment." Mom protested, but Juliet's tone left no room for argument, the authority of her position winning out. The door closed and suddenly it was just us. Juliet leaned against the counter, crossing her arms. "Adeline," she said, my name like a breath she had been holding for years. "And this is how we meet again." I couldn't look at her. The price of my choices sat heavy in my chest: the family dinners where Mom prayed for my future husband, the whispers from aunts about my single status, the nights I lay awake wondering if hiding was worth the emptiness. "I didn't know it would be you," I whispered. "Mom set this up thinking it was Dr. Brooks. She thinks." I trailed off, unable to say the words. Juliet stepped closer, her voice soft but edged with old pain. "She thinks you're straight. That you're ready for the life she planned. But we both know that's not true, isn't it? The silence stretched taut as a wire ready to snap. I had come here for a simple checkup, a way to appease my mother. And now the past was staring me down, demanding I face what I had run from. The rest of the exam passed in a blur of professional touches and careful distance. Juliet was thorough, kind, even as her eyes betrayed the storm inside. When it ended, she handed me a referral for further tests, her fingers brushing mine again. "Call me if you need anything, Adeline. Anything at all." Mom burst back in, full of questions about next steps, about Dr. Brooks. I nodded numbly, following her out into the bustling city street, the cold November wind whipping my hair. But inside, something had cracked open, the first fracture in the wall I had built around my heart. Little did I know this was only the beginning of the choices that would cost me everything I thought I needed to keep. The subway ride home from the clinic felt endless, the rumble of the train matching the chaos in my head. Mom sat beside me, scrolling through her phone, already texting her friends about how wonderful the appointment had gone, how Dr. Brooks was sure to call soon. "You see, Adeline, I told you this was the right step. A good man like that will give you stability, children, a real future." Her words landed like stones in still water, rippling through the guilt I carried. I stared out the window at the blur of tunnels, wondering how Juliet had ended up at that clinic, how our paths had crossed again after I had made sure they never would. Back in my small Brooklyn apartment, I kicked off my shoes and collapsed on the couch, the events of the morning replaying in vivid detail. Juliet's face, the way her voice had softened when we were alone, the unspoken history hanging between us. I pulled out my laptop, searching her name despite knowing it was dangerous. Dr. Juliet Rivera, top associate at Lang Medical Center, specializing in women's health, published papers on stress and reproductive health. Out and proud according to a few professional profiles, her smile and photos, confident, the woman I had fallen for and then abandoned. The memories flooded in unbidden. Our first meeting at a campus LGBTQ event. I had attended out of curiosity, hiding in the back. She had approached me, bold and kind. "You look like you could use a friend." Months of stolen moments, study dates turned intimate, quiet declarations of love in her tiny off-campus apartment. Then the call from Mom after she found a text, the ultimatum, the fear that gripped me. I had ended it with a text full of lies. This was a phase. I can't be like this. My family would never accept it. The silence after that still haunted me. My phone buzzed, pulling me back. A text from an unknown number. "This is Juliet. Your chart notes indicate follow-up needed. Coffee tomorrow 2 p.m. at the cafe near the clinic if you're free. Professional, of course." My thumb hovered over the reply. Professional. The word felt like a shield and a trap. I typed yes before I could stop myself, then spent the night pacing, rehearsing excuses for Mom if she asked. The next day I arrived early, the small cafe tucked between brownstones bustling with midday crowds. Juliet was already there at a corner table, 2 coffees waiting, her white coat swapped for a simple sweater and jeans that made her look like the student I remembered. She stood when I approached, pulling me into a brief hug that lingered a beat too long. "You came." We sat and the conversation started. Safe work, her recent promotion, my graphic design projects. But soon the walls crumbled. "Why the clinic, Adeline?" she asked, stirring her latte, her eyes searching mine. "Your mother mentioned marriage prospects. Is that really what you want?" I looked down at my hands, the same hands that once traced patterns on her back. "It's what she wants. What the whole family wants. Grandkids, church on Sundays, the perfect daughter. Coming out would destroy them, Juliet. You don't know what it's like, the guilt, the constant judgment." She reached across the table, her fingers brushing mine, sending sparks I had tried to forget. "I do know. My own parents struggled at first, but they came around. The price of hiding is higher than you think. It eats you alive until there's nothing left." Her words hit hard because they were true. I had been paying that price in small ways, missed family gatherings, fabricated stories about dates with men, the loneliness that crept in during quiet evenings. We talked for hours, the cafe emptying around us. Juliet shared her journey after our breakup, how she threw herself into med school, how she had dated, but no one compared. "You were the one who got away, Adeline. The one I measured everyone against." The admission hung between us, heavy with possibility and peril. When we parted outside on the sidewalk, she pulled me close again, her breath warm against my ear. "Don't disappear on me again. Please." I nodded, but inside the conflict raged. One coffee couldn't undo years of denial, but it had cracked the door open to a life I had convinced myself I couldn't have. That evening Mom called, demanding details about the doctor. Did Dr. Brooks mention me? Did he seem interested? I lied smoothly, saying the associate had been helpful but the real doctor was busy. The ease of the deception frightened me. How many more lies would it take to keep the peace? Sleep came fitfully, dreams of Juliet's smile mixed with Mom's disappointed face. The next morning at work my boss praised a new campaign, but I barely heard him, my mind on the text from Juliet suggesting another meetup. The pull was undeniable, the awakening slow but unstoppable. Yet with every step toward her I felt the ground shifting beneath me, the family I loved, the expectations that defined me, all at risk. The price was already starting to show in the knots in my stomach. The way I jumped when my sister texted asking about the appointment. One wrong move and everything could unravel. But for the first time in years I wondered if unraveling was the only way to finally breathe. The weeks blurred into a secret rhythm of stolen moments. Juliet and I met at cafes in different neighborhoods, parks on the outskirts of the city, always careful, always aware of the eyes that might recognize us. Each encounter peeled back another layer of the armor I had worn for so long. We talked about everything, the patience she saved, the designs I created, the dreams we once shared. One afternoon in a quiet bookstore in Williamsburg, she handed me a novel we had read together in college, the pages marked with notes from our old discussions. I kept it, she said, her voice soft, because letting go of you felt impossible. The gesture cracked something deep inside me, the tenderness, a stark contrast to the harsh words I had thrown at her during our breakup. Mom's pressure intensified. She scheduled fake double dates with sons of her friends, arranged church events where eligible men just happened to appear. You can't stay single forever, Adeline, the family is talking. At Sunday dinner with my aunt and cousins the questions came like arrows. Any special someone yet? My aunt asked, her eyes sharp. I mumbled something about work, Mom jumping in with tales of the clinic visit, omitting Juliet entirely. The lies piled up, each one costing a piece of my peace. Juliet noticed the toll. During one of our walks along the East River she stopped me, her hand on my arm. You're pulling away again. I can feel it. Is this about your mother? I nodded, the river wind whipping my hair. She would never understand, Juliet. To her this is a sin, of failure. Coming out would mean losing them all. Juliet's face hardened with the old hurt, but her eyes held compassion. And staying hidden means losing yourself. I've watched patients battle the same demons, depression from living a double life. The body keeps the score, Adeline. Our connection deepened without crossing lines we both knew would complicate everything further. Late night calls where she shared stories of her own family's slow acceptance, her father's initial rejection turning to quiet pride. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. They see me now, the real me. I envied that, the freedom she had claimed. At work my creativity surged, the designs bolder, more authentic, as if Juliet's presence unlocked parts of me I had suppressed. But the fear lingered. My sister Lena cornered me one evening after a family video call, her voice low. You're different lately, Adeline, happier but distracted. Is there someone? I denied it too quickly, the lie tasting bitter. The suspicion in her eyes planted the first seed of trouble. Juliet pushed gently for more. Meet my friends sometime. No pressure, just people who get it. I wanted to say yes, the idea of a world where I didn't have to hide intoxicating. But the image of Mom's face if she found out stopped me cold, the cultural weight of our Vietnamese roots, the expectations of filial piety heavy on my shoulders. One evening after a particularly grueling family dinner, where Mom cried about her sacrifices for my education, my future, I texted Juliet in desperation. She met me at a bench in Battery Park, the city lights glittering across the water. I can't keep doing this, I confessed, tears finally breaking free. Pretending with them, hurting you again. She pulled me into her arms, the embrace warm and safe, no demands, just presence. You don't have to decide tonight. But every day you choose hiding is a day you lose. I waited 4 years, Adeline. I can wait longer, but I won't watch you disappear into their expectations. The conversation shifted something in me, the moral dilemma sharpening. Was loyalty to family worth the betrayal of my own heart? Juliet shared her own scars, the patients she counseled through similar struggles, the ones who chose truth and found strength, the ones who didn't and paid with their health, their joy. The right choice isn't always the easy one, she said, but it's the one that lets you live. As we parted that night, her hand lingering in mine, I felt the tide turning, the awakening gaining momentum. Yet the cost loomed large, the potential rift with Mom, the whispers in the community, the life I had built on half-truths. The tension built like a storm on the horizon, beautiful in its power, terrifying in its destruction. I was changing, no longer the girl who ran but the woman starting to stand. The question was what I would stand for when the storm finally broke. The discovery came on a rainy Thursday evening. I had met Juliet for a quick lunch in a small Italian place in the village far from my usual haunts. We laughed over pasta, her hand brushing mine under the table, the simple touch grounding me in a way nothing else could. "You're glowing," she teased, her eyes sparkling. "This is what you look like when you're not carrying the weight of the world." For those few hours the world felt right, the prejudice, the pressure fading into background noise. But as I stepped out onto the wet sidewalk, my phone rang, Lena's name flashing. "Where are you, Adeline? Mom is worried you missed her call." I lied, saying I was at a work meeting, the rain masking my unease. 2 days later the confrontation hit. Lena showed up at my apartment unannounced, her face set in determination. "I saw you, Adeline. At that cafe with a woman. The way you looked at her, it wasn't just friends." My stomach dropped, the room spinning. I tried to deny it but the words stuck. Lena sat on my couch, her voice cracking with a mix of anger and hurt. "How long have you been lying to us?" "To Mom. She's been planning your wedding in her head for years. And you're out here with some woman." The betrayal in her eyes mirrored what I had feared, the family unit fracturing under the weight of my secret. She left with a warning, "You need to tell Mom or I will. This isn't fair to any of us." The family explosion came that weekend at our usual Sunday gathering. Mom's face when Lena blurted it out in the kitchen, the words hanging like smoke. "Adeline has been seeing a woman. A doctor from the clinic." The silence was deafening, then the storm. Mom's hands shook as she set down the pot of pho, her voice rising in a mix of Vietnamese and English, the cultural clash raw. "How could you do this to me, Adeline, after everything we sacrificed coming here for a better life, for you to throw it away on this sin?" Her tears came hot and angry, the accusations flying about, shame on the family, the neighbors, the church. Dad sat silent, his disappointment a quiet knife. I tried to explain the love, the years of hiding, the toll, but my words fell on deaf ears. "You chose this over us," Mom whispered, the pain in her voice cutting deeper than any shout. "Juliet was there for me through texts and calls, her support unwavering. This is the price, Adeline, but you're not alone. I've been where you are, the rejection, the guilt. It gets better but it hurts like hell first." I met her that night in her apartment, the first time crossing that line of privacy. We sat on her couch talking for hours, her hand in mine as I recounted the dinner, the ultimatums. "They want me to stop seeing you, to go to counseling, to fix myself." Juliet's face tightened but she stayed calm. "The choice is yours, Adeline. I won't force you but I won't hide either. Not anymore." The dilemma tore at me, the moral crossroads, clear, conform and keep the family, or fight for my truth and risk losing them. Societal prejudice crept in too. At work, a colleague overheard a phone call with Juliet, the whispers starting, "Adeline's got a girlfriend." The sidelong glances, the sudden distance from some team members. The world felt smaller, narrower, the freedom I had tasted now threatened on all sides. I made a decision in the quiet hours after leaving Juliet's place to partially come out to Mom alone, to explain without full commitment. The meeting was brutal, Mom's pleas turning to anger, her final words echoing, "If you choose this life, don't expect me at your side." The betrayal I felt from her rejection mirrored the one I had inflicted on Juliet years ago, the cycle painful and complete. Yet in the wreckage I found a spark of strength, the awakening forcing me to see the cost of silence was my own soul. The confrontations had stripped away the illusions, now only raw choices remained, each one carrying the weight of love lost and found. The following months tested every resolve I had. Mom's silence was worse than her anger, the family gatherings I was uninvited to, the calls that went to voicemail. Lena tried to mediate but the rift had widened into a chasm, the cultural expectations clashing with my growing certainty. Juliet stood by me, her own life offering glimpses of what could be, dinners with her friends who welcomed me without question, the professional success she had built unapologetically. "You don't have to do this alone," she said one evening as we walked through a quiet neighborhood, her arm linked with mine. But the guilt gnawed at me, the moral dilemma sharpening with every missed holiday, the price of my awakening measured in empty chairs at family tables. A turning point came when Mom fell ill, a sudden hospitalization for high blood pressure, the stress I knew I had caused weighing on her. I rushed to the hospital, the familiar smells bringing back the clinic day that started it all. Sitting by her bed, I held her hand, the first physical contact in weeks. "Why, Adeline," she whispered, her voice weak but eyes fierce. "Why choose a path that breaks us?" I poured out my heart, the years of fear, the love for Juliet, the realization that hiding had nearly broken me. "I love you, Mom, but I can't live a lie anymore. This is who I am." Her response was a mix of tears and resignation. "I don't understand, but you're my daughter. Just give me time." It wasn't acceptance, but it was a crack in the wall, a small victory paid for with months of pain. Juliet faced her own challenges, her clinic dealing with conservative patients who questioned her openness, the subtle biases she navigated daily. "Every time I help a young woman like you, it reminds me why I fight," she told me during a late-night conversation. The shared struggles bonded us deeper, the emotional intimacy a foundation stronger than any I had known. Yet the betrayals lingered. Lena's initial outing of me feeling like a stab, the way some relatives distanced themselves, the internal voice that still whispered I was selfish. The decision loomed large. To fully commit to Juliet meant embracing the fallout, the potential permanent estrangement. I chose to introduce Juliet to Dad first, a quiet meeting at a neutral cafe, his quiet nod and "be happy," the most I could hope for, the small step forward costing me sleepless nights of doubt. The climax built at a family meeting. Mom called everyone together, the air thick with tension. Accusations flew, cultural arguments about tradition clashing with my pleas for understanding. "This isn't the daughter I raised," Mom said, but her voice lacked the earlier fire, the illness and time softening her stance. I stood my ground, explaining the inner conflict, the price I had paid, the awakening that had saved me from a life of quiet desperation. Juliet waited outside, offering silent strength through texts. When the meeting ended, Mom hugged me awkwardly, the gesture tentative but real. "I don't like it, but I won't lose you over it." The victory felt hollow yet profound, the moral choice to prioritize my truth over blind duty, carrying the weight of damaged relationships, but also the lightness of authenticity. Through it all, the lessons etched deep, the confrontations teaching me that love sometimes required standing alone, the decisions shaping not just my future, but the legacy I would leave. Juliet and I grew closer, the romantic moments simple and profound, a shared meal, a hand held during a movie, the happiness hard won. The social pressures remained, the stares, the occasional comments, but they no longer defined me. I had paid the price in tears and distance, but the reward was a self I could finally face in the mirror. The journey had transformed me from the woman who hid to the one who chose, and in that choice found the strength to keep choosing every day. Life settled into a new normal, fragile but real. Mom's acceptance came in small gestures, a text asking about Juliet, an invitation to dinner with the quiet caveat, no public displays. Dad warmed, slowly sharing stories of his own youthful rebellions, the bridge between generations forming slowly. Lena apologized over coffee, her regret genuine. "I was scared for you, Adeline, but I see now it was your life to live." The family scars remained, faint lines of old wounds, but the healing had begun, the social prejudices outside still present but met with my newfound resilience. Work thrived, my designs infused with the authenticity. I had reclaimed clients noticing the shift, praising the emotional depth. Juliet and I built something beautiful, the romantic moments accumulating into a partnership of equals. Weekend getaways to the Hudson Valley, quiet evenings in her apartment, planning futures without fear. "You were worth every wait," she whispered one night, her head on my shoulder, the city lights twinkling outside. The price I had paid, the family tension, the internal battles felt distant now, lessons that had forged me stronger. Yet reflections came unbidden, the nights I wondered about alternate paths, the one where I had conformed, the safety it offered versus the vibrancy of truth. The awakening had been painful but necessary, the moral dilemmas resolved not in black and white but in the gray of love and loyalty balanced carefully. One evening at a family gathering, the tension eased enough for laughter, Mom even asking Juliet about her work, the conversation stilted but present. The societal pressures lingered in subtle ways, the questions from relatives, the assumptions at work, but I navigated them with honesty that disarmed most. Juliet's support unwavering, her own sacrifices and patience, and understanding mirroring mine. Together we faced the world, the lesbian story, not one of tragedy, but of resilience, the drama of our lives giving way to quiet joy. The choices had cost friendships, time with family, pieces of the old me, but they had given me back my voice, my heart, my future. As I sat on the park bench with Juliet months later, the same one where our reconnection had deepened, I looked at the woman beside me, the one who had been the unexpected examiner, the catalyst for my change. The journey from shock to awakening had been long, the conflicts internal and external, the betrayals and decisions shaping us both. Family bonds strained but not broken, societal views challenged but not conquered, the moral landscape navigated with courage and doubt. In the end, the price was real, but so was the freedom, the happiness that came from living true. Was Adeline right to embrace her truth with Juliet despite the family pain and social cost, or does duty to family demand hiding one's heart forever?